As you know, I lived in London for quite a large part of my life, and drinking was, well, part of my life too then. And back in the days, and I'm going back to the sort of 60s, 70s, 1980s perhaps, there were restricted hours for drinking in pubs. So there was this whole culture, certainly in central London where I lived, of drinking clubs that were at their busiest when the pubs were shut, particularly in the afternoons. My memory, if it serves me right, I think the pubs shut around 1 o'clock. So these drinking clubs, and they always seem to be the same. They were always either up some narrow stairs on the first floor of a building, of a house, or down narrow stairs into a basement. And very often they were seemed to be presided over by a lady of a certain vintage who were pretty fierce, and everybody had to make sure they behaved themselves. So yes, I used to do shift work, and I'd finish at on the early shift, finish at 2, so the pubs were just shut. So I had a couple of places in Kensington and London, West London, I used to go to, and I remember one of them, you went down the stairs and you knocked on the door, and a little thing, opened, a little window opened, and the guy would look out, and if he thought you were okay, of course they got to know you and let you in. And there'd be a bit of a mixture of people. There'd be people who certainly liked to drink, sort of alcoholics really. People like me on shift work who hadn't managed to get a drink at the proper time. Off-duty, shift workers, and ladies of the night quite often, and other ne'er-do-wells and not so ne'er-do-wells. So yeah, it was quite a cultural thing at the time. Some were quite famous. The Colony Club, for instance, in Soho, which was presided over by a fearsome woman called Muriel Belcher. And one of the people that used to go there was the artist, Francis Bacon, who I got to know a bit. He also went to a pub that I went to in Chelsea. I was living and working there, not the pub, in the area. And he lived round the corner, and so I got to know him in the pub. But he did like to spend his days, or his afternoons, up at Muriel's. It was always called Muriel's, the Colony Club, but pretty famous in its day in Soho. So I went there a few times, but there are other joints. There was one too where I was on night shift. So we finished at 7 a.m. or sometimes 6 a.m. And this was in Vauxhall, just over the river. And it was New Covent Garden. The old Covent Garden had shifted, I think in the 70s, over the river to this new premises. Well, it was been marshalling yards, I think, for the railways. And for the workers, the market workers, traders, they had this pub. It was a ghastly place, concrete, brand new, but concrete, sort of like a dungeon. But you weren't allowed to go. You didn't have to be a market trader. You could go, and so sometimes I went there after work. It's like 7 a.m, and there was a homeless hostel, a men's homeless hostel, just the opposite. And you'd get, what a mixture of people. You get the market workers, all right, shift workers like me. You get toffs that had been to the theatre and then to dinner, and they'd been up all night with their ladies drinking, and they would be in sort of very posh clothes, you know, the dicky bow and all this. And then you get to see guys from the homeless hostel, and they come in, and sort of go around begging off people for a drink. And they did quite well because she kind of just wanted to get rid of them, you know. So you gave them some money. I do remember phoning up a girlfriend. This would be about 7:30 maybe in the morning. I knew she'd be up getting ready for work. And I phoned her up and I said, do you fancy a drink? And she said, you know what time it is? I said, well, for me, it's the evening. Do you want a drink on your way to work? I knew she was sort of enjoyed doing sort of different things. And so she turned up about half an hour or so later. And we had a couple of drinks. And then I spoke to one of these traders, market traders. And off he went. And he came back 10 minutes later. And what I'd done, I'd asked him for some flowers for the lady, you see. And he came back with one of those massive boxes that the flowers are delivered to the florists. It was carnations. I think there are about 60 in it. And he let me have them, it was a long time ago, for about a couple of quid. And she couldn't, I said, here, I have some flowers to take to work. And we got her a taxi. She turned up a wee bit late, but not too late. And she said, I'm sorry I'm late to the boss, some office in central London. But I've had a couple of drinks. He said, yeah, I can smell it. And you got all these flowers, so everybody in the office got flowers. She was well impressed with that. But somehow the relationship didn't last. Anyway, that's just a few memories from those days drinking. All right, Dad, say goodbye. Goodbye. Peace.